Hi, and welcome to this introduction to PRINCE2, the PRINCE2 timeline and product map. This is probably the best introduction to PRINCE2 as it shows how a PRINCE2 project works. Okay, so my name is Frank Turley, and I'm going to take you through this. First question I have for you is, how does a project start? Well, somebody in the organization has a great idea, or it comes from a program environment, and they say, we would like this project to be done. And they put that into some kind of a document called a project mandate. So that's our input to the project. Okay, so there may be lots of ideas, and the goal is to examine these ideas to see which one could actually go on and be a project. So PRINCE2 says, well, we're going to start up the project. So we're going to do a couple of activities, and we call this the starting of a project activities or process. And there's a couple of things which we're going to do in here. So the purpose of this, let's say, first step, it's called a pre-project step, is to answer the question, do we have a viable or worthwhile project? So if we do, great, maybe this project can continue. And if not, shut it down because we're investing bad money in this idea for now. Okay, so, and the goal is then, so we want to see if it's a good idea or not, and then put together the minimum amount of data into a small document so that someone can make a decision if the project should continue or not. Right, great, you with me so far? So let's get rid of that. Right, so now I will fill in all the different documents that we have to work on. They'll all appear in here in the starting up a project process. Okay, right. The first thing that's done is the project manager opens up a lessons log and a daily log because they're gathering lessons from other projects or from other project managers that might come in handy for this project. So that's a good idea. And they're also writing notes into a daily log. So this daily log could be a notebook that they have or carry around with them, or it could be something on their PC as well. Okay, so that's the first things that the project manager actually does. Then they will ask the executive, that's the person responsible for the project, can you give me an overview on the business case of this project? And that's done by someone high up in the company because they understand how the company works and the value of this project from a business point of view. So that comes, see the outline business case as a draft business case document, okay, which the executive will be responsible for and write and make it available to the project manager. So what does the project manager do next? Well, they create what we call a project product description, PPD for short. This is like a high-level document which describes the main output of the project. Okay, so if we're building an apartment block with 6 apartments in it, it will describe, let's say, in 2 pages or a page and a half on what that output will look like. So it's a major project output document. It will describe the main output which we're trying to work on. It could be from half a page to a page and a half to 2 pages. Good. Then next we work on the PMT, which is a project management team. So we figure out who's who on a high level on the project. So who can represent the users? So they will give us all the requirements. Who's going to represent the suppliers and give us technical feedback on what's possible to do in the project and how long it will take, the estimates and so on. So we don't know all the people who are going to work on the project yet, but we do need the high level people who are involved in the project. So definitely start off with the requirements people. Then we can think about the project approach. What I mean by that is, let's say if we're building a software application, do we create it from scratch? Or do we buy an off-the-shelf application which we configure? Or do we get a cloud application which we work on as well? So those kinds of, it's a very rough decision which is taken at the beginning, and that can actually change. So all those items then will appear in one document, and we call that the project brief. So this is a brief overview of the project that we have today. It's a nice name actually. So this project brief document will help the project board decide whether this project is a good idea or a bad idea. So they can make a decision either to continue investing in the project or not. Next, then we have a plan for the initiation stage. So what does that mean? Well, if the project is allowed to continue, we will have to run the next step of the project, which is the initiating a project process, or you could call it the planning stage or the initiation stage. So this could take a long time to do. It could take like a whole month. So the project manager will create a plan to manage that month or 2 or 3 of delivery, depending on how long it will take. The starting of a project process is actually quite small. Maybe it's only going to take 1 week, and there'll be lots of workshops where we invite different people because we need help to build this vision document, or a document that describes what the main deliverables are going to be. Okay, so once that's done, then we get the project brief and the initiation stage plan, and the project manager will give this information to the project board. Okay, so what will they do? Well, they will take a decision. If the project is good, they will take a decision, and we call that authorized initiation. So they will allow the initiation stage to start, or the planning stage to start. That's the first decision that the project board will actually take. And they will look at to make sure that it's a good business case, that it's a good return on investment, and that adds to the company in the long term. So it's part of the strategy, and they'll probably check as well that there's not too many high level risks in the project as well. So once that's allowed to happen, then that's really when the project starts, okay? Because there could be 10 ideas coming in or 10 project mandates coming in, but only 1 or 2 ever are allowed to continue, okay? So what happens next then? Well, we start then the initiation stage, or the planning stage. And this is it here. It could take about 4 weeks to do. And now we're going to describe all the different deliverables which the project manager will work on in this initiation stage. First, let's look at the purpose of the initiation stage. So the purpose of this initiation stage is to establish solid foundations for the project. So we do that by understanding the work that has to be done. So we break down the project. The project manager will spend a lot of time facilitating workshops to really understand all the work that has to be done in that project. They will invite lots of people into these and then describe the deliverables in detail. So we want to understand the work to be done, and we create product descriptions for that. More about that later. All right. So now the first documents the project manager will create is, well, we will register, or we will open up a risk register, quality register, and an issue register. And some of the information from the daily log, we'll copy it into here. Okay, that's the first thing the project manager will do. So the next documents which the project manager will create are the 3 approach documents. There's a 4th one as well, which I will tell you about in a second. But the 3 first ones are an approach to how we will do risk management, how we will do change control, and how we will do quality management. See these as templates which the project manager just copies into the project. The next one then is a communications approach. So this is a communications management approach to show how the project manager will communicate to the different stakeholders during the project. So they will start off with a stakeholder analysis, figuring out all the different stakeholders in the project and figuring out then how to communicate with them. And that will be different for every project. Next then is we create what we call a product breakdown structure. So this is like a WBS, or work breakdown structure, where we break down the project of all the different deliverables which have to be done. It's like an organogram, and that can take a couple of workshops to do as well, which are facilitated by the project manager. Then for most of the items, let's say, that were broken down, we create a product description. So this is the requirements documents which are created. And again, the project manager will facilitate this, ask the questions to the users, what do you want, and then get the technical people to say what's possible and what's not possible. And then we create like a product flow diagram that's specific to PRINCE2. See it as like a dependency diagram of what can be developed first, second, third, and fourth, and so on. Okay, that's the best way to look at this. All that information then becomes part of the project plan. Okay, so this data, the project plan actually is quite big because it contains all the requirements plus when these deliverables may happen in their project. And this step here of breaking down the project and writing the product descriptions could take about 80% of all of the work done in the planning stage or the initiation stage. So we can take quite a lot of time and a lot of workshops to do. Next, then the project manager will decide how the project is going to be controlled. So what kind of reports are going to be used, how many stages we're going to have in the project, and so on. Next, then they will update the project management team roles. Perhaps we started this over here. We've learned a lot more about the project, and maybe we will make some adjustments to who's who in the project and ask more people to join because we need them in the rest of the project. So that's why that's there. And then finally, we can update the business case. We had a draft business case over here, and now we've updated it. And we have a better idea of the cost of the project because we have a project plan, which is still a guess, of course, on how much the project will cost. But that gives us some data which we need to calculate the return on investment. So that's why we can complete the business case document here. And then we create something called the benefits management approach, which gives an overview of how we will track the benefits during and after the project. So mostly after the project. All of this information then appears into the PID down as far as here. So we call that the project initiation documentation. See that as putting it into one folder with these documents, and then we can give that to the project board that they can decide. The benefits management approach is not in the PID because this document lives on after the project, and we'll see about this later. Okay, so those are all the document deliverables that we have in the initiation phase or the initiation stage of the project. Now the project manager will go up to the project board and present this information. So, but they also need to create a plan for the next stage of the project. So because we're going to start delivering products or delivering deliverables which the users want. So that will happen here, and more about that later. Okay, so next then is the project board will make two decisions here. They'll make one decision to allow the project to continue. So they'll put a budget aside to allow the project to continue, but they'll only release that a part of the budget stage by stage. And if they do that, they allow a stage to start. And this stage could be about, let's say, 6 weeks. Okay, this one here, while this one was 4 weeks, it could be 8 weeks as well. It all depends on how long the stages are going to be. So this is then the controlling stage process, and it's where the project manager actually spends most of their time in the project. So let's look at the purpose of the controlling stage process, or these activities which the project manager does. Well, the purpose is to assign work to be done. So the project manager will assign work to be done to the teams. Okay, and then the teams will do the work. Then the project manager will monitor the work. They will deal with day-to-day issues, like issues that pop up or risks that pop up. They will report progress to the project board, like they'll use a highlight report for this. More about this in a second. And they will keep the stage within tolerance. Okay, so that's the purpose of the controlling stage. Now let me show you how that's actually done. So the first thing the project manager does is they will hand out work to the teams. So let's say they take up 2 or 3 product descriptions, which are actually requirement documents. That's them there, but they're now in the stage plan. We put them into a work package, so it's a package of work, let's say, and then we give that to the team. That's the team at the bottom here. So down here, and the team that's shown here, we hand out work packages, and then the team will create their own team plan, okay, on how they will go about delivering these work packages or product descriptions. Okay, so next then, we can ask the teams, well, can you send us back a report every week on how you were doing, let's say, and we call this a checkpoint report. It could be a simple report in a Word document or an email, or even a stand-up meeting to say how everything is actually going. All right. And then when they have the products finished, they will hand back the finished work to the project manager. Okay. Now, these products, of course, have to be checked, quality checked by somebody, and the results of these quality checks will go into the quality register. Right. So, and that keeps happening until all the work has been done in the stage. Okay, that process is still there. Next then, on a day-to-day work, the project manager is dealing with issues that pop up, dealing with risks that pop up. Maybe they're checking on lessons, they're updating some items in the daily log, and products are changing status all the time. So they're updating something called the configuration item records. Okay, so that's something that's as a day-to-day work. Sometimes they will have to fill in issue reports, and some issues are big issues, so we call those exception reports, and they will be communicated to people above the project, which is the project board. Okay, that's why that's there. And then the last one, I've already mentioned this, we regularly send a highlight report, which is a nice name, see it as a one-page document, which gives an overview of the stage to date, how we're doing, what happened since the last 2 weeks, and what we're going to do in the next 2 weeks, and so on. So the project board could accept or could expect to get this every 2 weeks. So that's a good overview of what's happening there. So at the end of the stage then, or towards the end of the stage actually, we have another stage boundary process. Now I'm going to go into more detail this time around. We touched on it here, you see, but now we have it here. So what happens in a stage boundary process? Well, actually, there are, let's say, two things overview. What we want to do in the stage boundary process is to look back and report on how the last stage went and plan forward. So plan the next stage. So again, the stage boundary process allows us to look back on how we did in the last couple of weeks and plan the next stage. So we create a number of documents to be able to do that. Before I go into the stage boundary process, let me just tell you the purpose of this product delivery process here. So this is where the teams work, the people who actually do the work and deliver the products. This is where they work down here. So the purpose is to establish communications between the project manager and the team manager, because the project manager is handing work down, the team is accepting the work, executing the work, and delivering the work back up. That's what happens or keeps happening between this here. So, and then the purpose is to replace formal requirements on accepting, executing, and delivering the work. Okay, the project work, which is the product descriptions, which we have over here. So these are the requirements document. So that's the purpose of what happens down here where the teams are working. Now let me tell you about the purpose of the stage boundary process. So remember, the stage boundary process is to look back and to plan forward. So we want to look back and report on how the last stage went and plan forward. But PRINCE2 says the following. The purpose is to prepare the required information for the project board, because they want to see how the last stage went and they want to see a plan for the next stage. And then that will enable the project board to make a decision. So for example, they can approve the next stage plan, or they can also confirm that there's a business justification or a business need to continue with the project. So they will look in the business case for that. So that's what happens here. Right, so what documents does a project manager create in the stage boundary process? Well, first thing they will do is to create a plan for the next stage. That'll be the stage here. And maybe there are new product descriptions that have to be created. So the project manager will work with the users and the technical people to create these and add them to the next stage plan, let's say for the next two months. All right, so that's there. Then they will update the project plan because they will mark off work that's already been done. And maybe there are new product or new requirement documents being added. So they need to be added to the project plan. And then the end date of the project will keep going back a little bit at a time. Okay, so that's why they update the project plan. The project plan is known as a living document, so it should always be updated to represent what's actually happening in the project. When we've updated the project plan, we've probably extended it, so therefore the costs are gone higher. And then that's a good idea then to update the business case, because we want to keep that return on investment calculation as good as possible. So we want to update the business case, and now you can see that the project plan and the business case are living documents that should be updated at the end of every stage. And then we create an end stage report. So what's this? Well, it's a report about the stage that just happened. It's about everything that happened from here on to here. Okay, and the project board will read that and they will decide, okay, well, if they need to help out or give further instructions or not. But it's a nice overview on what's actually going on in the project. Then the project manager will give the end stage report, the next stage plan, and these two documents to the project board, and they can make another decision. And if they agree, they will allow the stage to continue, or they allow the project to continue to the next stage. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Then this is our third stage, but it's our second stage. We are delivering products, and the same thing will happen again. The project manager will look up in the stage plan for the different product descriptions that have to be created. They will hand them out. The teams will do the work. They will hand back the products. We will update the quality register based on the results of the tests that have been done, and so on and so on. So what can happen next? Well, we have the closing a project process. So no longer do we have the stage boundary because we don't have to plan the next stage. We're going to shut down the project. Okay, so we're going to have to create quite a number of documents or update quite a number of documents to make this happen. So the closing a project process or activities are done as part of the last stage. It's not a stage itself, it's always the last part of the last stage. Okay, so now let's look at the purpose. So what's the purpose of the closing a project process, which is done from here to here, let's say, at the very end, let's see, maybe in the last week of the second or this stage here. So the purpose is to ensure acceptance for the project product and make sure it's confirmed. So we're going to hand the big deliverable over to the paying customer and say, here, we have shipped everything you've asked for. Do you agree or not? So hopefully they will agree because we kept them up to date during the project and what we have done. And then maybe we have other objectives which we created in the PID over here, and we want to see if these have been achieved or not. We'll do our best to achieve them. Okay, we don't have to achieve everything because that would be over the top, but we should be able to achieve most of them. So now let's look then at the different things we create in here in the closing the project process. So the first thing we do then is to update the project plan to mark off what's been done in the project. So hopefully all the high priority and medium priority deliverables have been created. We don't have to do everything because some of that can be done in the future by maintenance people, but all of the main requirements should definitely be done. Then we update the business case because now we're almost about to shut off the project. So for once, we know actually how much the project has cost. And the best way, or we know how much the project is going to cost at the end of the project. Okay, up until that point, we are guessing. Next, then we update the benefits management approach document. So this is a kind of a plan which will show that when the benefits will be checked in the future. So let's say if the head of the sales department has promised that they will be able to increase sales by 20% and reduce costs by 30%, then we can go back every year and check with them to say, okay, well, are you meeting those benefits which you said you would? Because we have invested so much in your department. Okay, so that's the role of this document here, and that's why this document lives on after the project. Next then is we have the follow-on action recommendations. So what actually is that? Well, we have a lot of issues in the issue register and change requests, and some of these are still open. And if, let's say, a software application or even say a building, well, the people who will take over the software application or the building will have to deal or know about these issues or know about these risks so they can handle them in the future. So then we then make sure that we hand over this information to them so they are well prepared. Okay, that's a good idea. Then we create a lessons report about the project, what we have learned in the project, and this should be given to the project board so they can give to other people in the future. That's also a good idea. Next, then we have an end project report. So up to now we had an end stage report, which is a report on the last stage, while this is an end project report, which is a report on the complete project so far, how we have done. Okay, so it's an important document that should be written for the project. Lastly, actually, we have a draft closure notification document. So this is where the project board, you could say, are quite lazy. Which I shouldn't say that, of course, but the project manager prepares a nice draft closure notification email or a Word document, probably an email, so that the project board can just send out to all the stakeholders and say, the project is now closed. Okay, so we make life very, very easy on the project board, and that's why that's done there. And then the last thing that's done here is here the last decision is taken by the project board to authorize the project close, and that's the decision here. So the way to see that is that they turn the budget off in the project. So no more money can be taken from the project. It's the decision of the project board to switch off the budget. Okay, so who prepares the project for closure is the project manager. They prepare it, and who actually closes the project is the project board. They shut off the project. Okay, they shut off the budget, I mean. All right, so that's a very, very nice overview on how a project actually works. Good. So, and that's, you can watch this again to get a good idea actually, because there's a lot of vocabulary which I keep repeating in this, so it will help a lot. You can also visit Prince2 Wiki or Mplaza.training if you want more information like this. It's a good place to see. And you can also contact me at frank@mplaza.training if you have any questions about learning Prince2 or even using Prince2 after you do this as well. I'll be very, very glad to give you feedback. Okay, so I really hope you've enjoyed this training. And yeah, and as I said, watch it again. Bye for now.